Hello, Libertarians. It's a good crowd we've got here tonight. Beautiful crowd. You're a good-looking crowd. You're exciting. It's a lot like a family gathering in Utah. It's a little bit like a family gathering in a family with fertility problems. But, you know, we have big families there. Speaking of families, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. My son James, a few years ago, was dating this girl named Cassie. Love Cassie. Cassie's beautiful. Cassie's a musician. Kathy knew nothing about politics. She knew nothing about what James's father does for a living, and we were fine with her not knowing that. I think she thought I was a carnival ride operator. But at some point, when Cassie realized that it was getting serious, she figured out what I do for a living, and she realized, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I am politically. So naturally, she went online and took a quiz. So she approached James. She wasn't sure how he'd react to the news of what she was. She said, James, I took the quiz, and I found out what I am politically. She was very nervous, and he said, well, what are you? And she said, I'm a libertarian. And James was so relieved, and he said, that's great, that's okay, that's pretty much what we are. We're just not quite pure enough to be that, but, you know, we're going to agree a lot of the time. But here's what happened. James and Cassie, it was fate, they got married. And just about 5 weeks ago, they had a baby. Her name is Daisy, and she's beautiful. So, and it worked out well. This combination between my constitutional conservative son and my libertarian daughter-in-law, it produced a perfect offspring. I was holding Daisy. She's like 6 weeks old now, just an hour ago before I got here. I was holding her. True story, true story. She looks up at me, barely old enough to smile. And she says, Grandpa, you've got to introduce it next week. I didn't know she could talk. Just learned how to smile. And I said, introduce what? And she said, and the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. So let's make a deal here. So I'm going to break a little news tonight, right now. First time anyone's hearing it. Next week, I'm introducing the End the Fed bill in the United States Senate. And I tell you what else, that creature, that bastard creature from Jekyll Island will not know what hit it. All right, so what else should we talk about? I've got another bill that you might like. You might not have heard of it. It's called the No CBDC Act. Look, it's not just the central bank digital currency would mess up our monetary system. It's that it would end the Constitution as we know it, and we must never, ever, ever allow that to happen. All right, what do you guys think of George Washington's farewell address and his warning about entangling alliances? To hell with them, right? It's time to stop these endless, unnecessary, and most of all, undeclared foreign wars. Hell no! You know what unites us? Even though I don't bear the title libertarian. Sometimes my colleagues tell me that, and I'm great with that because it's a compliment. But we get to the same conclusion. Constitutional conservatives and libertarians very often reach the same conclusion on CBDC, on End the Fed, on no foreign wars, on the fact that government's there to make sure that we don't kill each other or take each other's stuff. And that's about it. If it's not about life, liberty, and property, government probably should stay out. And we should try to ratchet down government. Now, you can't always do it all at once. When you fall from a 10-story building, it's not the the fall that will kill you so much as the abrupt halt at the end. So we've got to do it methodically, but it's still got to be done. And so, in a little while, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from someone. I know you're divided on this person, but I've worked with him, and I want to tell you about where Donald Trump agrees with you on some things, some serious things. Do you know who doesn't like the central bank digital currency? Donald Trump, and he's promised to end it. When he came into office after being elected in 2016, a lot of people were worried about what he'd do with wars. And you know what? I was with him on countless occasions. I don't know if you know this, but I've got a lot of colleagues who are kind of fond of war. Secret, don't tell anyone. Some of those colleagues and some of the people in this sort of deep state crowd wanted him to go into war. And I saw him, to his great credit, resist that over and over and over again. And I heard him tell me, as he was being encouraged to do this, he was tired of making those phone calls to husbands, fathers, parents, as somebody, a loved one, had died in another undeclared war. He pushed back on that. Donald Trump was also someone who took down federal regulations. He understood something. He understood something of it. I keep these 2 stacks of documents in my office. One stack is a few inches tall, sometimes about this tall at the most. It's the bills passed by Congress in the last year. It's probably, 10, 11 inches too many, but it's only a few hundred to a few thousand pages per each year. Those are the laws passed by Congress in the last year. There's another stack 13 feet tall, 100,000 pages long. That consists of laws made by unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. Is that just? My version of Article 1, Section 7 says that you cannot make a federal law without the House and the Senate passing the same law, presenting it to the President, and having him sign it into law. Without that, there is no federal law. Do you know who recognizes that and wants to reverse this trend? Donald Trump. I get it. Get your booing out, but here's the thing. You've got a great opportunity to hear from him in a few minutes. If you don't want to take my word for him, hear it from him. But let me tell you just a couple of things about him personally that you might not know. I don't know about you, but I love the Constitution. I dream about the Constitution. I have a pair of Nike basketball shoes with Article 1, Section 8 inscribed on the back, and I like it. I want to tell you a story about Donald Trump and the Constitution. One day I was in the Oval Office with him. We talked about all sorts of issues, all kinds of issues. Out of the clear blue, he asks me the nerdiest, the wonkiest constitutional question about the intersection of the Constitution and the Senate rules that I had ever imagined. I'm going to imitate him here for you. President Trump, I apologize in advance if you're offended by this, but there's no way I can communicate the full effect of without doing it in his voice. So, here's what he said. Mike, what would happen if somebody came onto the Senate floor and they objected based on the absence of a quorum while the Senate was in a pro forma session? I won't give you the whole thing. It was really long. It was complicated. And I said, sir, I could answer that question. It'd probably take me a few hours. I would have to consult a few Senate rules experts and a couple of other lawyers, but I think I can get you the answer. That's okay. I got time. Go talk to Johnny. So I found this guy, Johnny. We assembled the necessary lawyers, Senate rules experts. Took us several hours. By the time we got it done, I watched Johnny through this 10, 12-step answer. And I said, you've got this. And all of a sudden he said, no, you're going to have to come with me to explain it. I can't do it. So I went back to the Oval Office with him. Thought he's probably left by now. It was dark. Walked in. He was on the edge of his seat. Oh, come on in. Pence, Kellyanne, Meadows, he rallied the staff. So I gave him the answer to this question. It was complicated. And at the end of it, he goes, Mike, when the rest of us were 16, we were out chasing girls, doing crazy stuff. And then he gets this really pained look on his face. But then I think about you at that age. And you're not doing that, Mike. You're at home sitting at a desk and you're studying the Senate rules and the Constitution. Am I right? And I said, well, I did like girls at that age, but yes, you're not far off. I was doing that stuff too. And he goes, I knew it. And then he turned to his staff assembled and he said, and yet he has a beautiful wife. I don't know how he did it. Look, my message is this. The federal government has become too big and too expensive because it's doing crap it was never intended to do. We have been on a collision course with socialism since April 12, 1937, the day the Supreme Court of the United States bastardized the Commerce Clause, and by so doing, it almost destroyed the vertical protection we call federalism. No sooner had that happened than Congress panicked over its newfound authority over labor, manufacturing, agriculture, mining, health, safety, welfare, and we stopped passing laws and we started delegating the lawmaking power. The result of all this has been really bad for the American people. It's been good only for a few people in Washington, D.C., home to 8 of the 10 wealthiest counties in America. We've got to return that power back where it belongs, to the people. So I'm here to ask you, don't settle for big government. Expect constitutional government. Demand that we restore federalism and separation of powers. Donald Trump may not agree with you on everything, but I can tell you he will agree with you a whole hell of a lot more than that nutball in the White House or anybody else on the ticket. I encourage you, take a listen to Donald Trump, support Donald Trump, restore the Constitution. Thank you very much.